Welcome back. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The statistics are staggering. More than 1 in 3 women and more than 1 in 4 men in the United States reported having experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Earlier in the program, we saw some of the Voices Against Violence walk to break the silence. We are here now with Sherry Gonzalez, one of the top fundraisers from the event, and she's going to talk about her personal experience with domestic violence. Hers is a different side to the story. She was one of those left behind. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened to your family 25 years ago?
Yes. When I was 17 and a senior in high school, my father murdered my stepmother and my 3 baby half-sisters. They were all under the age of 3 years old, and it was devastating. It changed our lives forever.
Can you talk more about the effect that that loss had on you and your sisters?
Obviously, my other sisters aren't here with me today, but they participated in the walk with me. And I have an older brother as well. It totally affected our lives, you know. The first event I had to go to and not have my father at was my high school graduation. And then there was many events after that for me and my siblings. Weddings, birth of grandchildren, just all the major life events you don't have him there for anymore because he's in prison now. And just not having my sisters, you know, I barely got to know them and they were gone. And, you know, now they would be in their 20s. So I sit and I wonder what they would be like now.
In a presentation you created, you described how you had to restart a relationship with your father again.
Yes, there's a lot of emotions, of course, when something this tragic happens in your family. And at first, I would say my father had no remorse about what he did. It took him a long time to get to be the person that he was when he passed away. He passed away in 2012 in prison, and it's just, he became a different person. He finally took ownership and responsibility for what he did, and he regretted his crime for the rest of his life. It was, you know, devastating for him, and he was just grateful that we finally gave him a chance and had him back in our lives, and it took us a long time, and, you know, I call us the collateral damage that gets left behind, because so much focus is on the victim and the victim's family, and even though we're considered the victim's family, you know, the first experience we had was at my sister's funeral. And when we walked in, it was like a wedding when they asked you which side of the family you sat on. And we had to say my father's side. And, sorry. When we all sat together, obviously we were a smaller group than her family. So her family ended up having to sit behind us. And my aunt overheard somebody say, "Should we be sitting here? This is his family." So my aunt turned around and said, you know, they were their sisters too. So it was hard.
And you also, in the presentation, you talked about the change your father went through, mm-hmm. and how he wanted to help people.
Yes. I knew that he had created a video with the Dover, New Hampshire Police Department back in 2000. And it was basically a video for other inmates that were coming in that had committed domestic violence crimes. And it was kind of a do as we say, not as we do. And he talked about his crime, and he talked about, you know, don't do this to your family. Don't leave them behind. You know, the simplest things like going to the movies with your family, you're not going to be able to do anymore. And it, you know, he did that, but I also found out after he died that he took part in, I want to say, hundreds of domestic violence programs in prison. We found certificates that he had participated in all these different programs. We found letters in his personal property that he had written to senators and Congress trying to change domestic violence laws. And so when he died, I had such a void, and I felt like I needed to pick up and finish what he had started. And so that's how I got involved with Voices Against Violence.
You and your team raised a lot of money.
I'm pretty proud of that. Yep, this year we raised $1,500, and we were one of the top fundraising teams. So,
And why is it important for you and your family to participate?
I like to remember my sisters. I like to keep their memory alive, and we walk in their memory. We walk in the memory of my stepmother, you know, and it makes me happy to think that we're helping other families maybe not go through this tragedy, get away from somebody that's abusive, because my father was a batterer. He had a restraining order out on him when he murdered my stepmother. And so if we can get somebody away from that dangerous situation and start over, I feel pretty good about that.
And what do you want to leave folks with today?
Just that it could happen in any family. You know, I never thought. I lived with my father for 13 years under the same roof before he divorced my mother and started a new family. I never not thought the man that was sleeping down the hall from me, you know, there were signs that you don't see until after it happens that you're like, wow, well, these were red flags. But it can happen to anybody. I always tell people that nobody looks like a criminal until you see him in a mugshot. You know, I never pictured my father to be capable of doing something like this. And so that's what I would say is just, it can happen in any family. Domestic violence affects any creed, race, financial bracket, you name it. You know, obviously look at Jerry Remy and his son. It happens to everybody. The statistics, like you said, are staggering.
Thank you so much for coming in. I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing to do.
Thank you.
And if you'll wait right there, the Framingham Beat will be right back.